Last round in the Autobahn series gave us one of the most incredible fights we've ever witnessed. Multiple car contacts while contesting the lead in prototype sent the fans and the commentators leaping out of their seats. But Monza's long straights are a contrast with the highly technical and weaving curves of Suzuka. 3 different classes attempting to navigate one another at the same time here is likely to upset the apple cart. Who will win in the land of the rising sun? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 10 of the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth covering the prototype and GTLM classes is Bill Soup Zahn. Keeping us up on the GTD class is Adam Lindgren. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and is using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Adam, it's interesting when comparing Japan to other countries of the world where racing history goes back much, much farther. Yet, this is a country which has truly established itself as a motorsports hub.
Definitely, Joe, and one of the gems of that motorsports hub is the Suzuka circuit, which is one of the few tracks in the world that is laid out as a figure 8. So with 17 turns, this 3.6 mile or 4.8 kilometer track builds up its excitement as the lap goes on. Each turn you tackle gets a little bit more difficult until the final chicane before the last corner leading to the main straight, giving you no place to relax until you're cruising past the pits. While the LMPs have the easiest time through the plethora of mid-speed corners here, their similar speed off the corner and tight track width will be trouble as they attempt to lap both of the GT classes. The GTEs will have a particularly hard time as the GT3's straight line speed will make catching and lapping them difficult, even while running into back markers. And if lapping slower classes is difficult, you can bet passing your own class will be as well, making corner exit, late braking, and track position the name of the game. Nail your pit stop, minimize mistakes, and smoke the qualifying that's going on right now, and even if you're a touch off pace during the race, you may just find yourself at the sharp end of the field at the end of tonight's 60 minutes. But enough chitter chatter, let's take a lap around Suzuka Circuit in our GSRC lap guide.
Alright, we're in the GSRC 4 GT, so let's do a lap around Suzuka. Down into turn 1, balancing the car on the brakes is going to be very tricky. While passes may happen in here, taking it too wide will probably make for some hair-raising situations. Drivers who know how to get the most out of the car by dancing it on the edge of control will be the ones to find the most speed. Power off the corner and quickly you're into the S's. It's important to keep the racing line or else you'll lose gobs of time. Try to set up each subsequent corner with a tight exit from the previous one. Eventually, around this final right-hander, you really want to line yourself up because you need a nice wide entry into the Dunlop curve. It's not quite flat out on the way in, so don't be surprised if drivers understeer wide into the sand. You'll start to gain a bit of speed, but hug the left side and gather all your bravery for Degner 1. Then, you get a small squirt of the gas and you're braking hard for Degner 2. Tuck it all the way down to the inside curb and swing it all the way out wide to help carry a lot more speed. Now, the little kink on the entry to the hairpin makes it tough to tell whether the person ahead will defend or not, so be aware. This slow, tight corner is best taken with a squared-off late apex to make sure you get a nice launch. This is another part of the track where you start to pick up a lot of speed, and while you might think that opens up a chance to pass into the next braking zone, Spoon is something of an awkward middle ground. You definitely got to throw out the anchors, but it's still pretty fast on your way in. Besides, the second apex is what's really important and possibly the most critical corner exit of the circuit. With it leading onto the uphill backstretch, every ounce of momentum makes a difference in your lap time, and you really don't want it to put you in a tight spot anyways. If your opponent gets a run on you, you're left with a difficult decision on if you want to try 130R side by side. Unless it's the last lap, I'd say preserve the car. It needs a tiny brush on the brakes and a lot of bravery, but it also dumps you right into the braking for the Casio triangle. This is one of the most popular places to get a pass done. Though you can get pretty on top of the curbs, you might find that applying the throttle needs a gentle right foot. Wheel spin will definitely be your enemy because now we've come back to the pit straight. Hopefully, you've kept it all together and have now finished a lap around Suzuka. You see a lap around Suzuka as the sun kind of going down here in qualifying, getting cooler as things progress. But we are getting towards the end of the season now, so I'm curious if we'll get an update involving Sushi or Samurai or whatever it is. Let's go to Bill.
Now we're going to play it pretty straightforward here today. I'm going to give you these ones that we don't have any graphics for you. Jason Girard in the when we talk about the LMPs and the prototypes, he's got the 237 points. He is comfortably ahead of John Ulmer by almost what would be like almost 50 points. Now, more than 60 points back is Billy Smith, Scott McGarvey, and Carter Kundinger as they run out the top five. There are three classes, though, so let's talk about the GTEs, and that's where Stephen McGarvey sits atop the standings by 13 points. He has 112 total. Just a tick under 200 at 199 is Deep Freeze, Jason DeVries, with Alex Simonic, Mike Young, and William Laster behind him. That is really an interesting category there. Simonic has been fast, but he's missed a lot of races. McGarvey has been consistent, and Deep Freeze is getting faster every round. Let's talk about the amateurs. Those are the GTDs guys. And that was where Kevin Santana, man, Santana really loves this championship. He's looking to get another one, but he's got to work hard. He's got Mike Majors. Now, Major has been in the hunt the entire season. Santana has 199 point. Major has 185. So he's back by 14, well within striking distance. A lot farther back are Tim Lakeith, Shane Hunter, and Lionel Duprat. Then finally, we talk about the team championships. And this one is tightening up a bit. You know, SRN Orange, they've got Mole and Stephen McGarvey and McLeish. We got ourselves, for a first time in several seasons, a nice race for the points. Joe?
Thanks for that update, Bill. And right now you're seeing the prototypes continue to work their way around here in the qualifying. This will be a 60-minute long race. This is back to the sprint format that they have here in this series, which we saw last week at Monza as well. So could be a lot of excitement as drivers try to work their way through, including one pit stop for fuel that all of the three classes do have to make. They also have an incident limit of about 24 incidents. Well, exactly 24 incidents, but you can get off tracks around here. Drivers certainly need to worry about that. As we watch Jimbo Pfeiffer, currently 12th in the qualifying. The one we got to worry about is John Ulmer, who's on his out lap. He hasn't set a time yet, and he's running out of that time to try and get up to the front. Adam, though, let's talk a little bit about what we're seeing here with the GT cars, though. You mentioned the similarity in pace, and this is there are some straightaways here, but the technical parts, there's very few of the curves that offer much in the way of passing zones. I mean, what are you expecting between both the GTEs and the GTDs?
Yeah, passing zones is going to be very difficult here. You're going to have to be late on the binders in order to make your way by. If you get stuck or if you have an early accident in a GTE car, you get stuck behind the GTD field because they're not going to want to let you by at all. They're going to be locked in tight battles with one another, especially down the straights. So passing zones are places like turns 1 and 2, especially the hairpin and the Casio triangle. Those are places where you're going to want to try and pass, but you got to be careful because hard braking into those zones can also lead to problems because each one of those is not just a straightforward 90-degree right or left hander. These things are curved corners, so you have to be super careful. A lot of these guys have extremely edgy setups on their GT cars that tend to push their back end around a little bit on braking, so they're not going to be entirely stable under braking, so they're going to have to be really careful, Joe.
So we watch Jimbo Pfeiffer come around for another one, but does not go faster. Jason Gerard actually just took the pole away from Billy Smith. Now, Gerard, last race, for the first time since round 2, finished lower than second place, but still he was on the podium. He got himself a third, which was ahead of the very man that is behind him in qualifying right now, Billy Smith. The thing is, it's looking like a pretty decent margin between Gerard and Smith. Instead of those two fighting for the championship, it is Ulmer who is the one that is fighting with Gerard. But right now, it is looking like Gerard is sitting very pretty, considering he has such a points gap and his main rival does not have a time in. Oh, and I take that back. Homer just finally set a lap in his first timed one. Good enough for third, although he spins it coming down into turn 1. That's good enough to get himself in the mix, at least ahead of last round's winner, Cy Andra. First win of the season for him, considering he's been showing up only sporadically this time around. As we watch D-Mole come across, trying to see if he can improve on 12th. Looks like he will not. Oh, no, he will, actually. Last one faster. That gets him up to 9th.
It's really interesting to see the strategies these guys are implementing. Most of these drivers in the LMP class are currently doing 1 or at max 2 lap stints before they then dive in and then go get new tires and some more fuel for another qualifying run. So very much like Formula 1 qualifying if you've been watching that recently. So these guys definitely getting the max out of their tires and the max out of that little bit of fuel they put in, and then diving into the pits to take some more tires and fuel.
And Adam, we've talked so much about how the GTE and or the GTLM and GTD classes are going to deal with one another. But one of the weird things that we've got is, I believe, of the three classes, actually, that's tied, it looks like, between Prototype and GTD. But all season long, we haven't had this many Prototype drivers out there, at least this significant amount compared to the other two classes. How is that going to affect things as well? Is this going to make a bit of a headache for the slower classes having to deal with a more constant flow of prototypes coming through?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's probably going to separate a lot of the battles in the GT classes, and that's going to cause a headache for the GT classes for sure. But if there are battles that are going on, it's going to make it extremely stressful for the LMP class when they try and get by. This track is not much more than 2 cars wide, even at its widest point, which is the hairpin. And so that makes it extremely difficult to try and pass around here or to even try and get by. So if there are GT cars going too wide or even fighting one another for position, these LMP cars are just going to have to wait for them to settle it out. And that means they could lose good 2 to 3 seconds if they get caught in the wrong corner.
I touched on Cy Andre briefly, and he was fourth at that time. He's now down to sixth. Both Scott McGarvey and Leif Peterson have now out-qualified him, so last round's winner does not seem as confident at this twisty circuit here. John Ulmer coming around, who's still in third, puts another lap down, but looks like that time will not count for him. We'll have to come around for one more try, one or two more tries, as we've got 2 minutes left on the clock. This is our pole sitter on screen, Jason Gerard, working his way through the S's, still holding about 3.5 tenths over Billy Smith, and has not been able to catch him, which kind of makes sense if you haven't followed this series recently or before. Jason Gerard is known to love not only this Japanese track, but Japanese culture in general. So he's said repeatedly, almost considers this a second home here. So certainly the 0-2 would love to get a win as Cy Andre comes across the line. Let's see what this one's going to be. It is faster, a 45.4, and that is pole, actually. 3/1000ths of a second faster than Jason Gerard.
That's going to upset Gerard some. Gerard just coming down the back straight now. He's going to go through. Yeah, he's got some lap traffic up ahead. They're a little bit slower than he is, but he's coming through now. We're looking at Carter Kundinger as he's going to finish off his lap. We'll see whether he can improve right now, see whether he can get better than 8th.
As fast as a 46.5. Ooh, half a second faster, but that only takes him up one position. Well, you'll take what you can get. Carter Kundinger in the 22, now looking to start from 7th. Billy Smith's last lap to be an out lap. Oh, and Gerard comes across and ups it once more. In fact, he's now nearly got 2 tenths over Cy Andre, so he responds. And with 30 seconds left, where is Andre right now? This is going to be his last attempt, the number 3.
Same with Gerard. Gerard's going to have to do it again as well. And the track is actually, the temp is coming down a little bit as the sun continues to set. Jimbo Pfeiffer coming across, seeing whether he can get better than 10th. Dean Mole coming across. I think we're going to see these times continue to improve. People who are out on the track right now are going to have trouble.
This is Travis Henderson. As he comes to the line, I think he'll be the last one to be able to start a new lap. Good thing, because that one looks to be an out lap. It's Leif Peterson who gets the checkered flag first. He sits in 6th position. Can he improve on the 146 flat? No, because that lap doesn't count for him as well. Then it's going to be Scott McGarvey, bit of an underdog and a dark horse. Champion in this car when it was a different class last season. Scott comes around from 5th, just one position ahead of Leif Peterson, also on a 146 flat. Make that a 145.9, but does not improve on his position. Cy Andre came across and did not get a counted lap that time by. Kundinger going to abandon that lap. So he's not happy with what he was running there. Sheldon Rosenbaum down in 13th with a 47.2. Crosses the timing line and does not improve. Gerard knows he's got pole. He doesn't come across the line. And I don't think we've got anybody nearly fast enough to challenge him. No offense to Jimbo, Pfeiffer, Mole, and Wilson. Of course, Wilson looks to be in the pits himself right now. Pfeiffer is sitting in 11th on a 46.8. He's done as well. He's going to bring it into pit lane. Dean Mole is going to try and finish his lap, though. He'll be the last driver to be able to do so in his number 79 car. And he improves by about a 10th, up to a 46.5. However, he stays in 10th position. That's going to set our grid for today here in round 10 of the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. Let's go through our starting order. Jason Gerard, as we mentioned, on the pole. That is over the driver who beat him last time around. Cy Andra with the win at Monza starts on the outside of the front row. Billy Smith will be starting in third, with John Ulmer next to him in fourth position. Scott McGarvey will be starting in fifth with Lee Peterson, P6. Carter Gundinger starts in 7th today. 8th will go to Travis Anderson, and then you've got Mark Wilson in P9. Dean Mole rounds out our top 10, and Jimbo Pfeiffer manages to put it into 11th. Robert Kanchan starts from 12th, followed by Sheldon Rosenbaum in 13th. Last of the prototypes will be David Sockrider, and he'll be 14th on the grid, Bill.
14 drivers in the prototypes, only 10 in the GTLMs. It's led by Stephen McGarvey. Outside of him, William Laster. Watch out for Laster. He's been getting faster and faster as the season goes along. Mike Young is always competitive. Olivier Chicot is going to be outside of row 2. Daniel Braulty and Ryan Huff make up row 3. Matt Quinn and Paul Lindsay are after them, with the final row being filled by Dave Hill and Trevor Barumbarovsky.
And we have the GTD field, which is going to be on pole is Paul Slavonic. Paul Slavonic alongside his another Audi of Tyler Gilmet. And then Lionel DePratt is going to come in third. And then Mike Major is going to start in fourth position, not exactly where he wants to be right now. Eric Antilli, our newest driver on the field, starting in fifth position, next to Shane Hunter. Kevin Santana, seventh. Matt Owens, eighth. Chris Sherburne is going to start off ninth. And then Gerard Gilbert is going to start 10th. Sean Reese, 11th. Mark Kedrowski at 12th. Jay Friels in 13th. And Art Peck is going to start 14th on the grid for the GTDs.
Looks like Ross Booth is going to have to start from pit lane this one, since he did not get a lap time in. As you can see, the car is gridding up. Now, Adam, we'll go to Bill first, since I know you're new to covering this series, but we have a tradition here of trying to pick a winner. And Bill, who have you got for round 10?
Oh, no way John Ulmer wins from fourth. Billy Smith in third. He's not going to get there. It's between Andra and Gerard. Hard to pick against Gerard, but going chalk is no fun. So let's go ahead and take Andra from second. Let's go ahead and look at the slower class down there. I like William Laster. He's able to run with McGarvey. Look for him to get around Stephen McGarvey and bring that win home for his first in the series.
Adam, who have you got your eye on based on what you've seen in practice and qualifying?
Yeah, with the GTDs, I think that the Audis are going to have a little bit of trouble. Both of them are going to be a little bit too edgy, so I'm actually going to put the win into Mike Major's hands tonight. I think his consistency over the course of the season is going to allow him to come home with the win tonight.
That's one of the most intelligent picks I've ever heard. Nice job on your very first pick. That was good.
Hey, Adam knows his stuff, especially with his GT cars. And that would be significant because Mike Major has not won yet this season. He is second in the points, but he's done that strictly through consistency. So he is a little bit overdue, and that will certainly help his chase on our points leader, Santana. You can see they've taken off behind the Porsche pace car. They're going to be led away by Jason Gerard, our pole sitter, once they get out of that Casio triangle. You can see they've split the classes. There's your GTLMs coming up behind them. They'll give a little bit of space so that they don't get into the back of the prototypes once they get down into the first corner. As the pace car now ducks into the pit lane. Gerard waiting to get to that line where he can accelerate away. Patiently over it now. He has control. Look how close he is holding to Cy Andra. Green flag is out as he accelerates away down the front stretch, almost making contact together, he and Cy Andra. Battle for third position. Billy Smith to the inside of John Ulmer. It looks like he's going to be able to pull that one out as they come through 1 and 2. I think they are all clean. Let's go to the GTLMs.
McGarvey really held him up before he gets going. He gets a great run. There is a battle for second, though. On the outside, it looks like William Lasser is going to be able to hang on to that position. Mike Young behind him, Olivier Tucat, and Daniel Graltiak.
Slavonic got an amazing jump. The battle is for second place between Mike and, I believe that, yes. So the second place battle is really starting to heat up right now. But look at that. Mike just really putting it in there into second place. He's really taking a huge gap out of Paul Slavonic's lead. He's going to be chasing him as they go through the S's.
Every single class clean through 1 and 2. Glad to see that we've got a fresh and clean start here for Suzuka. Already, our prototypes are coming up to spoon. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, they're clean. All 14 prototypes clean through the hairpin, too, which on the first lap, people always tend to get greedy there. That's where the guys like to make that pass early.
Really, the only battle that we had just there for a moment in the prototypes was between Mark Wilson and Travis Henderson. But Henderson, there was Kundinger and Henderson. Kundinger is the one that came out ahead. They've got a train of cars behind them, though, including Henderson, Wilson, Mole, Kanchin, Pfeiffer, and Rosenbaum. Completing lap 1 as they come out of the final corner up to the start-finish straight. It is still Gerard, your leader. Cy Andre is giving chase.
Oh, and
John Ulmer looking to redeem himself. Go ahead.
And Joe, Lionel Duprat has spun from second in the GTD class. He has gone around, and looks like Sean Reese has also gone around.
And I think they came together. Yeah, it looks like Reese went a little bit wide, and there was that GTD car in his way for Lionel Duprat. Absolutely T-boned him. This is the second race in a row where Duprat has wrecked on the first lap. This time, though, not quite as much his fault. He didn't hit anything initially. Here's the replay.
Yeah, Duprat, these cars are just a little edgy. Everyone's set up their cars quite a bit with the rear end wanting to rotate, so they really have trouble. Take a look at Duprat as he comes around here. You're going to see that he really struggles to keep the car underneath him. And this seems to be happening a lot with these GTD cars right now.
Don't need to go to it from this replay as we see another view of the hit. Jay Friel spun out in the Casio triangle. That sent him as far back as 12th, but Sean Reese is still behind him since he is coming into pit lane to get repairs.
And Billy Smith has also had an issue in the prototypes.
Ooh, well, that is disappointing considering he was well up the points order.
Spun it while in third in front of the field. Everyone gets around him.
Looks like this was quite a while ago, so I'm not sure that we'll be able to find the replay for that one. Meanwhile, we've come back to live action. There is Billy Smith at the back of the field with a lot of work to do. That's going to promote Leif Peterson up to 4th, Scott McGarvey up to P5, and Carter Kundinger into 6th. Haven't paid much attention to the GTLMs. That's currently being led by Stephen McGarvey, one of our 2 McGarvey champions. Stephen looking to take a second championship. He's got Will Laster trying to chase him down, but currently not applying much in the way of pressure. He's almost a second behind the number 16.
No, but he's been there. In fact, they're all there. They're missing a couple big names out of this group now. We don't have DeVries isn't here today. Young doing a good job of hanging in there as well.
Oh,
they're all pretty much racing in the same order they qualified. Go.
Something happened to Henderson. In the S's, Travis Henderson in the prototypes seems to have lost the car, and I think he found the barrier in a big way.
Yeah, that's just out of 1 and 2. Just in front of Mark Wilson. Mark really didn't have anything to worry about as his car spun off the track.
Board the car, see if we can figure out what exactly happened here. Oh, maybe a little grass.
He was looking at the Ferris wheel.
Yeah, it's a very pretty sight, especially during sunset. But unfortunately, that distraction has cost him quite a bit of bodywork on the front of his prototype. He is limping it back around to the pits. So we go back to the GTDs. Tyler Gilmet trying to hold on to second place, continuing to fall off of Paul Slavonic. And new driver is challenging him. Eric Antilli is rocking up behind him. He also has Mike Major second place in the championship points breathing down his neck.
Yeah, and Tilly's really had to up his pace quite a bit to try and get past Gilmet because Mike Major is coming with a head of steam. Mike Major really didn't have the greatest start. I said that he got into second, but it was actually his teammate Lionel Duprat his teammate, I say, the car that was painted like him, Lionel Duprat, who got into second place. Mike Major started off of this race and dropped down to fifth, so he's now trying to claw his way back. But Slavonic's already about 3 seconds off, and it looks like Henderson is in the pits now for repairs.
Yeah, he's tumbling down our timing and scoring sheets, unfortunately. So we watch this action, and the GTDs working their way up towards 130R. Till he falls back from Gilmet, not able to attack into this hard braking zone of the Casio triangles. They're all going to stay in order. Other than Slavonic pulling away, it is still very, very close here in the slowest class.
Yeah, these guys are actually being extremely consistent right now, and everyone's just staying in line. So it's no surprise that the class is pretty close. We actually do have the GTLM car of Ross Booth, who actually ended up starting behind this field, and he's trying to claw his way back. He's about halfway through the field in P11th in the GTLM class back there.
Yeah, Booth, because of his lack of qualifying, unfortunately put it in a very bad position, but it's a long race still yet to go. Hopefully he can work his way forward. Up to 7th place in the prototypes, that is Dean Mole. Now, behind him, look at all these cars. There is Mark Wilson there in the black machine. The yellow one is Jimbo Pfeiffer, Robert Kanchan, and the other black car back there in 10th. And then you finally got a gap.
I think Mole's going to drive away from him. The battle that I've been watching is back here for 8th. Mark Wilson ahead of Pfeiffer.
We actually got a battle right now.
Are all behaving.
Lee Peterson side by side with Scott McGarvey. Not often that you see side by side battling through the S's, and it is Peterson who comes out on top. That cost them a lot of time through here. See how this started off. I think it was down into turn 1. Going around the outside. That's Peterson that you see in the blue machine.
Yeah, that's a
Does
power move.
it the hard way. Oh, John Ulmer. Oh, no. Off in the Degners. Did he make contact with the wall, though? Let's see. He's got it going once again. Let's see if we can get the replay up.
I don't think he got anything. Did a good job of saving it. He ends up getting it out. He loses 3 positions to Peterson, McGarvey, and Kundinger. Watch this, though. There we go.
Sorry to disappoint, Bill, but I don't think cheese is very popular in Japan, so I'm not sure what they put on their pizzas.
No. Well, he's all right. He's still racing. We're still good. Plenty of time for John. He's got another 51 minutes to make it up.
Yeah, and he's only down to 6, so it's not dire quite yet. Now, back to second, and, actually, no, we're going to GTLMs, sounds like.
Yeah, this is interesting. Raster's in second. Mike Young is doing his very best to try to get around him. Even at that, he's about 7 or 8 car lengths back. These guys have to be careful because Stephen McGarvey's beginning to run away with this one.
We've had action in both the GTLMs and the GTDs. Gilmet still fending off Antilli, who himself is still dealing with Mike Major, who I have to admit, Adam, Mike Major is applying a lot of pressure. Every time I look over, he is right underneath the rear wing.
Yeah, he gets a little bit closer every single time. I think he's got Antilli if he could just get a good run off of this corner down to the straight. As he starts to go through here, like Mike Major's just really been applying heavy pressure to Antilli, and that's causing significant issues. But it looks like Ross Booth has decided to take it to the pits now. He's taking a tow.
And this involves our championship points leader, Kevin Santana. Now, Santana's able to keep going. Let's look at the replay. This is into the hairpin. He gets a hard thwack into the rear bumper. You can see he half spins, and I don't think he loses a position because of it. But Ross Booth eventually decided to take a tow.
That's the last thing you want to have happen to you as a slower class car is to get run into in the back of. But yeah, that's just unfortunate events. I don't think Ross Booth expected. Maybe he just braked a little bit later, but I don't think he expected it to slow down that much.
Santana's certainly not having that great of a race currently. Don't need to go do it, but Scott McGarvey had a big accident. This is coming out of 130R. I'm not sure that we'll get time to get to that replay because I believe we are going to get traffic very soon and things are going to get very exciting in a moment because Gerard is nearly up on Matt Owens, the first. No, this isn't even the first of our GTDs. He's still in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, they've already got through a few. You know, just to follow up on McGarvey, with Billy Smith crashing from third and McGarvey crashing from fourth, that's allowed Leif Peterson to put himself in a podium position in the prototypes. Well done.
As we ride on board with Jason Gerard, our points leader, scything through these GTD cars. He's being chased by Cy Andra, still within about a second. And as you mentioned, all those incidents with the top runners means they've got a big old gap. It is nearly 7 seconds to third place Leif Peterson.
Yeah, Peterson has about 4 or 5 car lengths on Kundinger, but you know, it wouldn't be surprising if Gerard and Andra have an issue together. Opportunity for Peterson to vulture himself a win. Love to see that.
Yeah,
Not that I wish bad luck on anybody else, but always pull for the underdog.
Yeah, everybody loves a Cinderella story, and I'm sure Peterson would love it as well. So we continue to watch Gerard's progress, now going by Shane Hunter. Backstretch a lot easier to try and slip through. Let's see if he's going to get all 3 of them. And yes, he does. Gets himself a nice gap, getting by Antilli. And then he's got Gilmet.
Yeah, this has really helped him as Andra's pinned back there now as they go through the Casio triangle. Andra has to wait.
He really got the worst of it. You're right. Finally, out of the final chicane, he squeaks through. But remember I said it was 0.8 of a second before? It is now 2.5 seconds as they cross the line that he has lost to Gerard.
Andra's been around long enough to know that that'll all work out. The next lap around, Gerard will get the worst of it, so no worries.
I'd say this helped Slavonic as well. It is 4 seconds between himself and Gilmet, although he lost a little bit of time with Gerard here.
Yeah, Joe, I just think Slavonic's just had the pace this entire time. He's been gapping. I mean, if we do a lap comparison between him and Gilmet, he's been gapping consistently a couple of tenths each lap out now to 4 seconds. And I don't think that has anything to do with the prototypes so much as it does just with his pure pace.
I'm guessing Slavonic won't want us to keep the cameras on him too long based on his luck so far this season. Again, still winless. He's led laps in, I would say, a majority of the races. There's the lap comparison between himself and Gilmet, confirming what Adam's been saying.
And Joe, you guys might want to take a look at the battle between Leif Peterson and Carter Kundinger. They're right next to each other as they cut through this GTD field, and they're really bottled up right now.
Ooh. In fact, that's exactly what happened to Leif Peterson. Oh no, there goes Gilmet into the tire barrier. Oh.
Adam doing a little crystal ball commentating there. Nice call.
Poor Gilmet. He was holding his line as we watch on board with Kundinger, who makes the contact.
Just misjudged the closing rate.
Yeah.
That's the second time we've seen that happen today.
Gilmet is back on track. Oh, and there's a big accident happening right now. We're watching the replay.
It involves Billy Smith involved in it, I believe.
Yeah, looks like Billy Smith and Robert Cancian, those two were trying to overtake him to make a 3-wide situation.
They came up on the back of Gilmet. Poor Gilmet. Oh, no. No, it was. Jeez, the guy can't buy a break here.
He's not going to be sending many Christmas cards to prototype drivers, I think. Here's the incident right here.
Oh, they try and make it 3 wide.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Tyler has a case to send some ire towards the stewards about what's been going on with lap traffic.
First he got punched from behind, then he gets punched in the driver's side door.
I frankly don't understand how you try and make it 3 wide right there.
Yeah, it went wrong in a hurry.
Yeah, that's Billy Smith being on tilt a little bit there from an earlier incident.
Certainly was. Well, that's good news for John Ulmer, though. He's now back up to 5th, and actually very close behind Carter Kundinger, who was in that battle with Leif Peterson. So it is now a 3-car fight for the podium. They come out of Spoon Curve. They don't have any traffic ahead of them. It is all clear racetrack up in front. We ride on board with Kundinger, looking back at Ulmer, who continues to gain.
Yeah, I don't want to downplay the talents of Peterson or Kundinger, but I would expect Ulmer to get this pass made pretty soon. Boy, he really gets
strong
on the
brakes, yeah.
Yeah.
But he doesn't get the good run off the corner. Almost looks like he got a little caught out by how close he got to Kundinger. All 3 of them in a line down the front stretch into turns 1 and 2 once more. This is all about 10 seconds behind first and second place. Gerard and Andra close, but not worth going to for the moment. They're still separated by a bit of a gap. We'll break in if they start to erupt.
14th overall. This will be 4th in the GTLMs. This is Olivier Tricot being chased by Daniel Gralti. There has not been a pass on track for position in this class until they get back to Quinn got around Huff. That was for about 6th position. They're racing in the same order they grid. They are very well behaved here.
But I think
would like to get this done.
That's going to change because Tricot was way wide on the second apex of Spoon. Gralti trying to take advantage of it. Even with that mistake, he is not gaining. It just looks like that Porsche is outgunning the BMW down the straight. Maybe not in the fast corner, though. Here comes Gralti with another look. Down to the inside, into the Casio triangle. Just can't get close enough under the binders. He stays in that 5th position.
You see on the tower there, the middle section on the left-hand side. Those 6 cars race in the same order they gridded.
Gralti going to stay in touch with Tricot. They weave it into turn 1. Let's ride on board with Daniel. See what it looks like from on the dash of the BMW. I'm keeping half an eye on Andra and Gerard as well, because that's been cut down to 0.8 of a second. Again, not quite close enough for an attack, but you never know if they hit some traffic, which the GTLMs are coming up.
Also, Ulmer still races behind Peterson and Kundinger. It's taken a little longer to get there than I would have expected.
I agree. They also are weaving through a little bit of traffic. They're overtaking Mark Katrowski. Gonna glance at that battle. The red machine that you see at the tail of the train, that is John Ulmer. Kundinger in the white and orange. And the blue machine is Leif Peterson. Get more traffic. That's Sean Reese trying to stay out of the way. Just caught at a horrible place.
Did a good job.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's about as good as you can ask for.
Now they're coming up on Trevor Vavroski, who seems to just wander around the different classes of this series. He says, you never know where he's going to show up. There they go. 1, 2, and Ulmer will be there soon enough.
And the 3.
There we go.
Ulmer actually lost a little bit of time with this traffic.
I swear Peterson and Kundinger are listening to the broadcast. All right, Soup. We're going to run away from Ulmer. Nice job, boys.
Wonder if, John didn't hit anything, but I wonder if he's, because he slid over the curbs, maybe a little under tray damage or something?
Yeah, I would think so.
Back to Gralti. He got within about 1/10 of a second coming through turns 1 and 2, but yet again, not able to make an attack on Olivier. The Canadian is just keeping him right where he wants him. Number 47 seems to be a little bit stuck.
Nice little battle between nations and manufacturers.
Absolutely. Daniel Gralty hailing from the Plains Club. Not exactly sure which states that all entails.
They're all flat. It doesn't matter.
He follows him up towards the hairpin. Since nothing seems to be going on here, let's check in with our leaders and the prototypes. Overall, still about 10 seconds ahead of everybody else. Gerard is in front of Cy Andra, and they've got a little bit of traffic in front of them now. Matt Quinn trying to stay off to the right side as they approach Spoon Curve. This is going to put Andra a little bit offline. He sends it in deep, trying to make that time up. Nearly goes off course, but keeps it together just to try and keep from losing time. You could tell that Cy is pushing, looking for that second win of the season.
Boy, 8/10 of a second gap. It really starts to think about pit stops and what you can do in there.
Yeah, at this point, this is all just pretty much for pride. As I mentioned, Cy not having attended many of the races and Gerard having a monstrous lead. This has been really just an incredible season for Jason. Ever since he had his first two races not go very well, he's been on a tear, winning the majority of them. But now they've got a battle side by side. That was Gralty and Turcotte in front of them, who have finally given us some action as soon as we turn away, and it's going to be Turcotte who wins out just as our prototype leaders catch them. Jason Gerard has nowhere to go through the S's, finally finds his way around at least one of them. Now two. Andra is going to follow suit as they give way a little bit wide for Turcotte. Opens the door for Daniel Gralty. This is try number 2. Can he get it done the long way around, coming into the Degners? Yes, he does. Brave stuff from the Plains driver. Who would have thought that it started without the help of traffic and ended with the help of it?
First pass made in class on track.
Doing it in quite a bit of style. Number 47 now up to 4th position. Tell you what, this might not be over for our overall leaders because Andra's still within about 0.3 of a second on Gerard. They just overtook Mike Young, and coming up quickly is William Laster, second in the GTLMs. This could also play a role in it, depending on if Gerard can get through. He pulls up behind him. Doesn't hold up either car, it looks like, as they move through the final chicane. Andra not going to get his chance quite yet.
Next up will be Jay Friels before they get to the class leader, Stephen McGarvey.
Bill, in all this, we've been following lots of great action. We haven't even mentioned the pit window, which is now firmly open.
Yeah.
Though I don't see any takers for a scheduled stop. Possibly Duprat down in Adams' class.
The architect designed the windows a little bigger for some classes than others. The prototypes will probably have the smallest window.
I think Robert Canchin's in for a scheduled stop. Actually, wasn't Canchin in, well, he had contact, I want to say, with Billy Smith.
Yeah, he's coming in his first opportunity to get the car made pretty.
So,
not be surprised if Ulmer doesn't come in as soon as he thinks he's able to.
Yeah, Ulmer's still sitting in 4th place. He did manage to get by Peterson, but has not been able to overtake Kundinger as we take a look at those GTD cars. This is Hunter and Major fighting for the last spot on the podium.
Yeah, Joe, Shane Hunter's been chasing Mike Major for quite a while now. Mike Major's been struggling a little bit on pace trying to catch Eric and Tilly ahead of him, and Paul Slavonic has really... He had taken off, and it was almost up to 6 seconds, but it looks like Eric and Tilly's clawing it back now, almost 3.4 seconds now. So Shane Hunter's clawing his way up to Mike Major. And Mike Major's got to be careful because Kevin Santana's down in 5th. Santana leading the GTD points, of course. And Santana has not had the pace. He's almost 6 seconds off the back of Hunter now. So these battles are going to be exactly as they are right now. No one's really moving or shaking right here in the GTD class.
That's crucial for Mike Major being 2 positions ahead of Santana to try to cut down that points lead. I almost wonder if Slavonics' time lost is due to him giving maybe a little leeway to the faster classes as they come through. He's had a plethora of ways to lose races so far this season, not the least of which when lapping drivers have unfortunately made contact with him while he was in the lead.
Yeah, Joe, it's either giving leeway to the classes or just giving leeway to his car. The Audi tends to have a lot of trouble keeping that back end underneath it, and especially around Suzuka, where you have a tendency to break over crests. This is a place that can really throw the car out from under you if you're not careful. We've seen it a couple times tonight. So maybe he's just playing it a little safe and managing the gap.
Whatever the case, I have a feeling there's a number of people pulling for Paul Slavonic to finally get that win. Could he do it here in Suzuka? Back a little bit farther down in the GTDs, Hunter getting very close to the back of Major, and not close enough to try and send one in down into the Casio triangle.
Yeah, he poked his neck out a little bit, showing Mike Major's mirrors a little bit of the front of his blue Mercedes, and he's really trying to shake Major because unless Major makes a mistake, these two guys really been duking it out. Hunter definitely has the better pace right now, but Major just keeping him at bay just by keeping his car in the middle of the track and making Hunter try and find a way around in the dirty air.
So far, nothing doing, unfortunately, for the 927. But he's only halfway through the race. Could be a good time for him maybe to make a pit stop, get himself that clear air, and get ahead. Let's go back to our leaders because Gerard and Andra back once again within 0.3 of a second. Bill, this is feeling a little bit familiar, just with different parties involved.
Indeed it is. They are very close. You talked about Andra racing just for fun, but I'll tell you, he has a lot of fans from all the other guys in this class. The last thing they need to see is Jason Gerard get another win. So if Ulmer could get around him and at least limit the bleeding that Jason Gerard is putting on these guys. Ooh. Gerard working out there. Oh, careful!
Wow!
That is Duprat.
Yeah, tried to get the inside of Duprat, still working with his damaged car. Gerard lost a lot of time. Great heads up from Andra. Not getting into him as he chops off Duprat very, very closely through the hairpin.
I might have been a little bit upset about that.
Let's look at it one more time. And as we look at that replay, I just want to report that Jimbo Pfeiffer's finished his pit stop. So is Rosenbaum. And we saw Kanchan as well. Those are our 3 prototypes who have managed to complete their scheduled stops.
Yeah, look at the flashing of the lights there. And then Duprat does not have the same amount of braking as those 2 LMP cars. He's really struggles to get on the brakes there with his much heavier Mercedes. And I think he just like so many other people tonight, did not anticipate the braking time that he was going to have to put in to stop in time.
It's also really shallow in the corner.
That's a really interesting point. I've never really thought about that. When that prototype cut in front of him, it kind of really put Duprat in a tough situation, getting a heavier car wound up. Thanks, Adam. I like that.
As we come back live, Duprat, actually, where is Duprat running in currently? He's still in 8th. That's not bad considering the woes he's had this race. Up in front of him. Our leaders are actually catching that battle for 3rd in the GTDs.
We don't need to go there, but Billy Smith has had another spin, boy.
Oh, this is definitely affecting them, Joe. It looks like, oh my goodness, they just barely made it past Mike Major. This is going to give a chance for it looks like Cy Andra. He might have a chance here, but no, he has to stay behind.
He thought about it down in the Degners, but we didn't see a repeat of what we saw in the GTLMs with the 2 wide into that corner. Now they come up to Eric Intilli, 2nd place in the GTDs. Gerard having to take a little bit of an alternate line, coming off shallow to get through there. Finally, he is by. This is getting awful tense for the lead in those prototypes because Cy Andra keeps seeing little spots of hope, opportunities that open up just hasn't really taken full advantage of any of them yet.
He knows he has half a race and a pit stop still to go before he gets to the checkered flag. But yes, he is being very pesky to Jason Girard.
This is our closest fight in the prototypes other than Jimbo Pfeiffer, but that's for 7th place between he and Kanchan. So really, this one takes priority. They go by our leader, Slavonic, who lets them through. Slavonic's regained some of that gap, by the way. It's now up to about 4 seconds. A lot of drivers electing to go long in this race. We're seeing only a couple of the prototypes having come in. Most of the GTD cars that I see having pitted have done so due to damage. In fact, the GTD class, Adam, you were right about predicting a lot of slippery cars out there, because it looks like attrition has reared its ugly head in our slowest class.
Yeah, and a lot of this attrition has to do with contact with other classes, so it's not necessarily, the slippery cars being the issue, but this track has been in direct sunlight for quite a while. There's a lot of shadowy parts, a lot of sunny parts, and it's the track temperature differs based upon whether the track's in shadow or in sunlight. So these drivers are having to struggle with very different conditions, but because of the low angle of the sun, it hasn't been that much tire wear. So that's why these guys have been staying out and going long, trying to put as little fuel into the car as possible when they come in for their stops. I wouldn't be surprised to see some guys not even take tires on their stop.
Yeah, it's getting a little bit dark out here. It is a lovely evening around 6:30 p.m. here, virtual standard time in Japan. Wonder if we could go to the battle for 7th that I mentioned in the prototypes a little bit earlier. Jimbo Pfeiffer is applying a lot of pressure to the 199 of Robert Kanchan. Right on board with Jimbo's yellow machine.
Pfeiffer started in 11th, Kanchan in 12th, so Kanchan's made it around. Pfeiffer would like to get that back. Both those guys have picked up a few spots due to attrition.
Some of it's due to attrition, but I think, well, no, all the others also have pitted near them. So I was just going to say some of that was due to pit stops, but... Well, and down to the inside, very sudden move. The yellow machine of Jimbo Pfeiffer tries to get it off the corner to see if he can solidify this one. They almost come together, nearly making contact side to side. Another close moment as Robert Kanchan, and this time they do touch. Robert Kanchan elbows out to try and keep this position. He is not going to let that banana boat by.
Good run as they head to 130R.
They've been watching the leader's last race.
That was Gerard Gilbert. They worked their way around. Here he comes. Look at the run, boy, but he's not going to do it before the chicane.
Certainly seems eager. A little bit of a defensive move, covering off the middle of the track. Kanchan making sure that he doesn't sneak one up the inside into the Casio triangle. A little bit of lack of traction off that chicane for Jimbo Pfeiffer costs him some car lengths.
Like that camera shot. That's a good one. Go, Joe.
Yeah, off the gearbox as he gains, just doesn't have quite enough straightaway. But this is looking like it's more of a question of when, not if, for Jimbo Pfeiffer, the way that he is pushing to try and take this away.
One of the best battles on the track. Gerard and Andra has stretched out a bit to about a second and a half.
Yeah, and if our viewers looked at the upper right of the screen, Gerard just set the fastest lap of the race, so he's obviously pushing hard. Like you said, it is up to 1.6 seconds between them. Meanwhile, this is Kundinger and Peterson taking their stops. Ulmer, no surprise, he's going to stay out. I'm sure he's going to try and jump them in the pit stops.
Ulmer had nothing for Kundinger. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, Joe, I just want to report that Eric Antilli, who is running second in the GTD classes, he took his pit stop a couple of laps ago, and it has not paid off for him. He is now stuck in the middle of the GTLM mid-pack battle, so he's losing a ton of time right now on his outlaps, and that's going to lose him time to Mike Major and Shane Hunter as they try and pursue.
Well, one car just ducked off from him, Ryan Huff, so that's one less that he has to try and let by, thankfully. And I think Dave Hill just got past him as well. So he should hopefully get a little bit of clear track now to try and run some hot laps. We saw that Peterson had finished his stop, Kundinger as well. They are back out on track with Kundinger 4th, Peterson 5th. And our leaders are in. Gerard pits. Andra is going to follow him.
Would not surprise me to see Cy get out ahead of Gerard here.
You think he saved enough fuel sitting behind?
Yeah, and Andra can afford to be a little more risky than Jason can be. Jason's in the championship hunt.
I love that onboard looking back at the helmet of Jason with the Crunchyroll sponsor on there, known for streaming anime online. So again, he loves his Japanese culture. He waits for his pit stop to finish. Cy Andra just behind him in those pits. John Ulmer also now reaching his pit stall.
Come on, Cy. Oh, he took a long time.
Yep. Actually, looks like it was a fair bit longer for Cy than it was for Jason. Oh, let's watch the battle for third, though, because remember, John Ulmer trying to beat out Kundinger. Ulmer's moving now, but Kundinger has the head of steam. He's coming up, and he's going to get by. John Ulmer's ploy did not quite work.
So that battle that was once Peterson, Kundinger, and Ulmer is now Kundinger, Ulmer, and Peterson.
Oh, and that battle for Cancian and Pfeiffer. Pfeiffer got by. When did this happen? Looks like this happened coming out of Spoon Curve. Let's look at the replay. Happened with some lap traffic. Paul Lindsay in front of them.
Yeah, this Cancian caught Lindsay at probably the worst time.
Pfeiffer knew
Didn't
it.
want to get too close to him, yeah.
Yep. That time the 3 wide worked out.
Well, Pfeiffer was able to pick up a little bit of a tow from the very brick-like car of Lindsay, then got a bit of a tow from Cancian, and then he goes around.
As we come back live, they're right in the midst of a lot of cars. They had Christopher Sherburne in there, and now they're trying to overtake Dave Hill. They've got past most of them. It certainly wasn't a difficult part of the track through the S's and the Degners.
You talked about Dave Hill. He's having a nice 4th place run in the GTLMs.
Oh, sounds like our leader in the GTDs is in, Adam.
Yes, Paul Slavonic has come in from first place. He was about 5.5 seconds ahead of Mike Major when he came into the pits, so this will be fuel only for him as well. And he's going to try and make it back out there. It'll be interesting to see his gap to Eric Antilli when he comes out, because Antilli was about 3 seconds behind when he came into the pits. So this will be the deciding factor as to whether or not the overcut or the undercut is the preferred strategy for these GTDs.
New leader in the GTLMs as Stephen McGarvey makes a pit stop. William Laster now your leader. Soup's pick to win.
So a few more changes of position now happening down in that class.
We'll take them out when we get them.
Interesting to note about Slavonic, the last time he tried an undercut, if I recall, was at Road America, and I believe he lost the race due to his pit strategy there. So I don't know about this one for Paul. It bit him last time, but he's had at least a little bit of a gap over Major this time around, or Antilli, I should say, who was in second.
Yep, and he's going to hold that position and hold that gap. He lost a little bit. He only lost about half a second there to Antilli over the course of the couple laps that Antilli was in before Slavonic. That was about 3 laps, so Slavonics holding the lead right now, but now he's going to have to try and dig his way out of the midfield as they decide to pit, whether or not they're going to.
Only waiting on 3 cars to pit in the GTLMs. That's Laster, Young, and Hill. And then 5 cars to pit in the GTDs. That's Major, Hunter, Santana, Owens, and Sherburne. Everybody else has taken their stop and are good to go to the finish.
The bogey time is 29 seconds from Laster to McGarvey. Of course, McGarvey has made a stop. Laster still needs to make his.
I think Laster's starting to get to the end of that pit window soon as we follow him towards the Casio Triangle.
Should be this
Number
time, and
30.
Young should come in as well.
Yep, there they go. Good call, Bill.
Now, Young has actually been a little faster than Laster. He's had a horrible run with traffic, though. We pick up McGarvey, who should easily get these guys.
McGarvey leading by not that great of a margin over DeVries. Also, Simonik not here this week. Mike Young really is the one that, the only one that he has to worry about. Young is already a fair number of points behind.
McGarvey through the Casio Triangle. Laster still sits, as does Young. Laster rolls.
Yeah, McGarvey's got this easily. Laster is out ahead of Young, who return in 4th place, but we are still waiting on Dave Hill.
Hey, that a boy.
The one of 2 Fords that we have here today. Looks like he is running very good fuel.
They're pretty and economical.
Ford EcoBoost, right?
That's right, baby.
Well, that now leaves Hill to pit, Major to pit, Hunter, Santana, and Sherburne.
Boy, the Gerard Onder lead is up to 13 seconds. Did Onder have an issue?
Something must have happened.
Yeah. I'll see if I can find it. Might have been a while ago.
It was this lap. It was definitely this lap because he had a 155. That is certainly not to pace. And it was in turn 1. Turn 1 of lap 23, it looks like. Not sure if we'll get the replay, though, since that was a little bit ago. It was all on his own.
Just goes to show you, if we can get this one, how dominant they were. Where are we here? Is this coming up to the Casio Triangle, looks like?
Yeah, it's a...
They'll be right after they go through here, down the straight, into 1.
Oh, now we've jumped to the S's. This was in turn 1 that this happened.
Yeah, so
Not
we
sure that
missed
we're going to be able to get this one. Regardless, this has certainly set Andre back and helped out Gerard significantly.
It really
he'll
does.
be able to take max points.
It really does exemplify how dominant those two were as Andre was able to do that spin. He's still in second.
Absolutely.
Comfortably.
With
6.5 seconds, yeah.
Kundinger is nowhere to be seen. What has happened to John Ulmer, though? Not even on the podium today, 4 seconds back from Carter Kundinger. We expected him to make short work of both Carter and Leaf. Now he's passed Leaf and left him behind, but maybe we're not giving Carter enough credit.
Dave Hill pits from the lead, and he's coming out, so that gives it back to McGarvey.
That demotes Hill to 6, brings Laster back into 2nd, and Young onto the final spot of the podium. Now, Cancian was in a fight with Jimbo Pfeiffer before, but that has now switched to a fight with Mark Wilson. They also have Pfeiffer a little bit up the road, but he's starting to leave them in the dust. Oh, and look at this. It's a 3-car fight. There's Rosenbaum there in the blue machine. Time is running out, though, if these drivers want to try and make hay. The sun now really low on the horizon. You can see the lights have turned on. We're just starting to light the way for our various classes. We finally have the last of our pitters in GTD here.
At least one of them, Mike Major, has pitted from the lead. He was about 30 seconds ahead of Paul Slavonic. That's not going to be enough, I don't believe. And he was a little slow into his pit box as well. So this is fuel only. Now, granted, he ran longer than Slavonic, so he's going to have a shorter time to sit on pit road, but we'll see whether or not this allows him to get ahead of Slavonic.
Slavonic's out of the final corner now. Santana also pits. Major is going, but already Slavonic is by and back into the lead. Slavonic fans, cross your fingers, cross your eyes, do whatever you can to try and get that 5-2-8 to the finish from here. He has got a significant gap to the next car back.
And similarly, Mike Major came out with a significant gap back to Shane Hunter of about 20 seconds. So Shane Hunter's outlap was not a great one. So this is should equalize everything a little bit. But Mike Major, yeah, he's got some work to do if he's going to try and catch Eric and Tilly about 3 seconds ahead.
Doff your hats to Antilli. The number 35 has come in on its first race, and this series has lots of talent here, even in this AM class as the GTD cars are. And yet, he is looking at a podium in a second place in his very first try.
A very impressive run from him. He's shown consistency, speed, and also good race strategy. Deciding to push Slavonic instead of let Mike Major get on his rear bumper, that's a veteran move. It shows that this guy really knows what he's doing, and he's here to race, and he's here to get good points. So it's cool to see good guys like him join the series.
Now, this is for position that you see between he and Sherburne ahead, but again, Sherburne has not pitted yet, and he should probably do so this time by. With only 13 minutes left, Sherburne has really stretched the fuel. As he comes up through 130R. Once he comes in, that'll allow us to run through the field and give you an update on exactly how this race has gone down so far. Out of the final chicane and into the pits. There goes Sherburne. Finally, the last driver to take his pit stop. Let's start with our top 5 in the prototypes. Jason Girard up at the front. He has pulled a big gap to Cy Andre ever since Cy's mistake, but that's starting to come down somewhat. It is down to 8.5 seconds currently. I don't see any damage, so I think Girard probably just biding his time and bringing the car home. Andre himself, not much he can do from here except try and push if he hopes to get a second win. He won last race in Monza, and he challenged for it this week in similar fashion to what we saw with John at the Italian track, but unfortunately his own error has cost him better opportunities. Carter Kundinger, this is a driver that deserves some credit for a well-earned podium. Those around him fell by the wayside. He picked up the pieces, and not only that, he has outgunned one of the known hot shoes in this series. That is 4th place, John Ulmer, just behind him by about 4 seconds. John has been sat behind Carter for much of this second half of the race, not been able to make inroads, but still will collect points. It's just unfortunate that he is so far back from Girard in the points that this is unlikely to help him take the championship. Leif Peterson rounds out our top 5. This has not been a bad race for him, considering he started in 6th, but other than briefly seeing a moment on the podium, it's been a little bit unremarkable, if anything, a solid day for the 39. Bill?
Only one pass made on track. All the other passing has been done in pit lane, and that all equaled out after the pit stop, after the pit window closed. Steve McGarvey basically going wire to wire. He's got himself a comfortable 9-second lead over William Laster, who gridded second and races in second. Mike Young gridded in third, races in third, and he's got himself about 4 seconds back to the one pass we did see on track was Daniel Gralty got around Olivier Turcotte. And once Gralty got around Turcotte, he was able to drive away Olivier Turcotte in 5th position comfortably there. I don't think Dave Hill's going to get there. Adam?
Paul Slavonic is leading the GTDs as he has from the drop of the green flag. He's been playing it pretty conservative, but now he has a 7 and almost a 7.5 gap. Second gap. Wow, that was close between him and Sciodras off.
Oh, second place driver in the S's. And did he actually make contact with Slavonic?
No,
or did he manage to avoid
grass
him?
on the outside.
Boy, it's a good thing he actually didn't get into Paul, or we'd have another repeat of history. Here's the replay. Thought he had the room, and then maybe a little miscommunication.
It looked to me like Paul was just driving his line inside, decided to go inside, then decided not to, and then it was too late for the braking zone, and he just had to dive inside and got his left tire on the side. Yeah, just no luck there.
I'd say Cy decided wrong, unfortunately, in this case. He does come back in fourth, but he is limping. Ulmer's already gotten past, so maybe John will get that podium indeed. Carter Kundinger now looking at a second, though.
Yeah, we did that rundown, and as soon as we got through, Andre had his mistake, so Kundinger and Ulmer move up a spot.
Did we get to fifth there with you, Adam? You just suddenly had some action there.
No, we finished Slavonic, but I do want to talk about our second place driver for sure. That's Eric Antilli, our newcomer. We talked about him a little bit already. He has shown quite a bit of pace here tonight, and he's still ahead of Mike Major, who's in third. Mike Major now has closed the gap to about 1.5 seconds, so that race probably isn't quite done yet. If Mike Major can navigate this traffic well and maybe get some good tows, he might have a good chance there. Then we have Shane Hunter, who's been putting on the challenge to Mike Major all night, but his outlap was not great, and he's now 14 seconds behind. And then Kevin Santana, our current points leader in the GTDs, is down in fifth position, but he really has been off pace all night and is about 10 seconds off the back of Shane Hunter, which means he's about 15 seconds, wow, more than that, about 20 seconds off the back of Mike Major. So he's not having the greatest night in the world. Joe?
Yeah, disappointing contrast for sure, Santana, this week compared to last round. Yeah, Cy Andre had to pick.
So that allows Leif Peterson and Jimbo Pfeiffer to move up a spot. Peterson now in fourth, Pfeiffer in fifth.
Remember, Pfeiffer qualified in 11th. This has been a great showing. Race pace, certainly nothing like his qualifying pace in the double aught.
Picked up a few spots from attrition from Scott McGarvey, Billy Smith, and Travis Henderson. They all had issues in front of them. So there's 3 spots, but nevertheless, he's picked up 5. Nice run.
Speaking of issues, just about 30 seconds ago, Eric Antilli had some contact into the hairpin with a couple of the GTE and one of the prototype cars. A really interesting contact that, yeah, let's just take a look at this. This was just an issue, I think, a concern about just trying to get out of the way here.
I was going to say, I don't see contact on my screen. Let's watch from the directors. He does certainly dive out of the way. This is coming out of the Degners up towards the hairpin. Maybe just, and he's thinking he has enough of a gap that he decided it's better to try and give them plenty of room. Does allow Major to get within about 2 seconds of him as we come back live. Major's still got a lot to make up in these 6 minutes left, though, if he wants to try and get into second place past him. And Major does have impetus to do so. As we mentioned, he is chasing Santana in the points, and although he's... Whoa, is that Antilli off? No, that's Lindsay, excuse me. What happened to Lindsay? Looks like the GTLM driver, the number 70, just got a little loose through 1 and 2.
He was racing 9th in class, having a nice, quiet night. That's all right. He's not going to lose a position. He'll just go back out there and race.
BMW didn't hit anything. He did get going once again. Speaking of getting going, Cy Andre did as well, but he is running in 10th position. Kudos to a driver who's not fighting for the championship, getting the car back out on track and just simply trying to finish the race. I always admire when drivers do that.
Yep. You know, Joe, the Autobahn series is notorious for turning a race that looks like it's a cakewalk in the final 5 minutes into something exciting. With Gerard has an 18-second lead, McGarvey's got himself a 9-second lead, and Slavonic is up by almost 8 seconds. So the excitement is due to happen anytime here in this Autobahn race.
Oh,
Whoa, what happened to Quinn here? You've been keeping an eye on him, Adam.
Yeah, Matt Quinn have really been struggling with his tires over the last couple laps, and his rear tires just are not cooperating, and you'll see it as he comes here. Yeah, look at this. He just loses the car a little bit, and wow, that's a really good move by Ryan Huff going around the outside, and Quinn just cannot hang on to it and goes around.
Certainly looks like that Ferrari is a handful. Well, you were saying, Bill, about the final 5 minutes of this series?
Well, every time we have one of these races where it looks like it's, there's going to put in the final few laps and we'll call the order, something always seems to happen. So,
oh yeah.
Don't
Well,
go
no,
away,
I was hinting that Quinn was.
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Quinn's trying. He's trying to set the example.
This is our leader in the GTDs, Paul Slavonic. The gap back to Antilli, 7.5 seconds. In fact, the gap that Antilli has pulled to Major has increased ever since he had his off. It is up to 3.5 seconds. Eric looking like he has fantastic pace.
Like this guy.
Yeah, Eric's doing a really good job of Paul Slavonic being super impressive, still pulling 2/10 a lap on Antilli. I mean, as impressive as Antilli is, Slavonic's really been the class of the show today, and he's Antilli doing a really good job though to keep his car ahead of Mike Major, who's been so strong and so consistent throughout the season.
Hailing from the New Jersey club, Eric Antilli representing that East Coast. Looks like unless something drastic happens, he has got this second place pretty well under wraps. Going to the battle between Wilson and Cancian in 6th place. Cancian looks like he has a bit of a run, but as they come by the traffic, he's going to run out of straightaway now that they come up to 130R. Ooh, and way off the track, Robert Cancian abusing the runoff a little bit. Remember, they do have an incident limit around here. We're getting towards the end of the race where those numbers could be getting higher.
They're about 2 seconds behind Pfeiffer is Wilson. I think Pfeiffer's safe as they work their way around. That is Sean Reese.
Nicely done by Reese. Keep it tucked down to the inside. 2.5 minutes left to go. It is cooled down by probably a good 10 degrees since this race started. Now 75 on the track surface. A little bit of miscommunication. Slows up Mark Wilson. Mark Kudrowski was the one trying to get out of the way. Still, Cancian can't do anything with it. Not missing anything up at the front of the field in the prototypes. We've got 2 laps to go as Gerard just came across the line. This might be our closest battle in the entire field right now. Coming up on more traffic, Dave Hill around Spoon Curve, trying to stay out of the way, holds off to the right. Wilson sneaks through. It almost looks like, Bill, this is the second time around Cancian starts to lose as they come up the hill on the backstretch. I wonder if he's got more wing in it or damage or something.
Yeah, it could be a more downforce dialed in. Let's see what happens out of here. We're looking to get the white flag, I guess, this time around for these guys.
No, not.
Or they get around one more time.
Yeah. Gerard's going to come across and get the white flag next time by. Yet again, Cancian slow in a straight line. This is a technical track, so there's a good chance he could have a whole lot of rear wing cranked in.
This is Olivier Turcotte. They need to get around now, running 5th in the GTDs.
Oh, he catches an absolute horrible place through the S's. Finally, he gets the launch around the outside, but the damage has been done. What was just a couple tenths is now 1.1 seconds. White flag is out in the meantime for Jason Gerard. Is this win number 6 that this is going to be for him? I'll have to double check our stats. He has certainly racked them up. And at this point, with a 19-second lead over Carter Kundinger, his only worry is weaving his way through the traffic. This is our leader in the GTLM, Stephen McGarvey, as well, coming to the white flag. This has probably been one of the more uneventful races in the GTLMs. McGarvey's probably happy for that. Laster really not quite close enough to challenge him in the points. I believe he's 5th in the points.
Joe, you are very good. This is indeed Gerard's 6th win of the season. You didn't put it in the form of a question, so we're not going to give you the point.
I would not be any good on Jeopardy anyway. So, Slavonic also desperately hoping for this first win. Just on his final lap now. But Gerard is coming out of Spoon Curve. He already leads the points. John Ulmer is his main rival in those points. But John Ulmer is already well far back. And with him finishing with a 3rd place, this is going to extend. The O2 loves the Japanese culture, calls them his people. But as Jason Gerard comes out of the final chicane, he takes a victory here in Suzuka. Stephen McGarvey going to be our next one to cross the line of our winners. Number 16 came into this race with a gap of about 13 points over Jason DeVries. Jason Deep Freeze did not show up today, Bill.
Neither did as Alex Simonic in 3rd, so it's going to be a nice little stretch between McGarvey and Mike Young.
Out of the Casio triangle. No challenge from behind, similar to the first class. About 10 seconds between himself and Laster's victory for our current champion, Stephen McGarvey. Slavonic's got 7 seconds. He's only got half a lap left to go here, Adam. This is probably the most nervous he has been all season long.
Definitely, this is exactly the time when you don't want anything to happen. This is when you just give the spot to Matt Quinn if he challenges for it from behind. And so Slavonic coming through. What an impressive run from him today. Super consistent, super strong. And as he comes through these last couple corners, he's just going to play it safe, play it consistent. Looks like Matt Quinn's okay sitting behind him. And Paul Slavonic going to come through here now into the triangle. Looks like if he doesn't spin the tires off this corner, this is going to be his first victory of the season.
It's been a long time coming. 10 rounds. Slavonic takes the win in Japan. That's going to round out the last of our field coming through as he celebrates, flashing his lights. We're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results, though, as well as driver interviews. If you stick around, you'll see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC, so don't go away. Welcome back to Japan, where we just watched round 10 here in the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. Suzuka International Racing Course hosted today's race, and Jason Gerard came away with the overall victory, beating out a number of very fast drivers, which we'll get to eventually. But next up is Carter Kundinger, who we probably need to start considering a fast driver with a run from 7th to 2nd. He did a phenomenal job out there. John Ulmer finishes 3rd, but it certainly didn't look like he was going to get onto the podium, considering he had another moment and fell down the order. Leif Peterson was behind him with the 4th place, and a well-earned top 5 from Jimbo Pfeiffer, who qualified in 11th. Another driver who may not have good qualifying pace, but great racecraft. Mark Wilson manages to get 6 ahead of Robert Kanchan, those two fighting for a while. Sheldon Rosenbaum with them close at the finish to take 8th place. David Sockrider gets a 9th, last of the cars on the lead lap. Cy Andra was the main challenge for Jason Gerard for much of this race. Unfortunately, he made a big mistake, and then he made an even bigger mistake and winds up a lap down at 10th. Dean Mole is the last of our prototypes to finish within 11th. Bill?
3 prototypes ran into trouble. 2 cars out of this class ran into trouble, but our winner was Stephen McGarvey, basically wire to wire. Willem Laster, who's going to get 2nd. Mike Young in 3rd. McGarvey leads in the points. Young is in 4th, so that gap is going to get even bigger. Daniel Gralty and Olivier Turcotte go 4th and 5th. Dave Hill, Matt Quinn with an issue there at the very end. He'll have to settle for that position. Paul Lindsay and Ryan Huff. Adam?
Paul Slavana coming home with the win in the GTD class. 2nd place is Eric Antilli, the new driver. A really good run from him, especially considering his starting position. Mike Major coming home in 3rd place. Probably not the race that he wanted. He was hoping for the win and thought maybe he'd get it. But coming home in 3rd after starting off that first lap in 5th place, a good finish for him. Shane Hunter, chasing him all race, comes home in 4th, followed by Kevin Santana in 5th. Chris Sherburne in 6th place. Matt Owens 7th. Lionel Duprat in 8th place, Mark Kadrowski in 9th, and Sean Reese in 10th position.
Then you've got our drivers who are mostly DNS. Travis Henderson did not see the checkered flag. Gilbert did in the number 76. Bobrovsky did not in his GTLM car. Tyler Gilmet managed to get back out and take a 34th overall. And then the rest of them are all DNFs for the day. Billy Smith out of the race, Jay Friels as well. Scott McGarvey, disappointment for Mr. Consistency right there. Ross Booth and Art Peck, the last of your fields. We have our winner ready to talk to us, Jason Gerard, with his 6th win of the season. And as we pull him in, I'd ask who he'd want to thank, but I have a feeling I already know the answer to that, Jason.
Yes, you already know the answer to that. It's 3 words: home track advantage. I'd like to thank my Japanese people. They inspired me to the win today.
So they certainly did. You did have some pressure, though, in the first half of the race. Cy Andra looked like he was keeping you honest after what you saw with the racing he had with John last round. Were you ready for a bit of the same, bit of elbows out battle?
Yeah, I mean, he kept me honest pretty much the entire first stint there. I just couldn't drive away from him, so eventually I just kind of resigned myself to the fate and just, whatever happened happened. I was just looking at the bigger picture. If he had uh, tried to make a move on me, I probably wouldn't have contested it. I saw John had some issues in the back. I was trying to beat him, not Cy, but you come in here, home track advantage. You gotta show him. You gotta represent sometimes.
I kind of figured that this one was personal for you. Now, we started this race pretty late. The sun got very low by the end, and the track got significantly cooler. Did you notice the 10 degree swing by the checkered flag inside the car?
Yeah, it was the tires were starting to get a little skittish on that second stint, especially coming out of the pits. Uh, if Cy was still directly behind me, it would have been interesting. I was just trying to survive that second half, but yeah, I could tell the grip level there was on those worn tires was not all that great.
After this, there are only 4 rounds remaining in the championship, but your points lead now extends today. Is it kind of the same method as you mentioned going into here, that you're just going to try and points race and bring home the decent finishes to solidify this thing?
I still want to win, but at this point, I'm just don't take any stupid chances. I know there were a couple moves there I made in today's race that were a little misjudgments that could have certainly ended badly for me and not allowed me to finish the way I did. But I just got to be smart and not take any stupid risks in the next 4 races.
All right. Well, we look forward to seeing the run to the last 4 rounds, and congratulations on a sort of home victory.
Thanks, Joe.
Jason Gerard, our victor today in the LMP1s. Up next, our GTD winner is getting ready to talk to Adam.
Yeah, Paul, what an amazing race for you today, kicking it off with a great start, and then you just pulled away from the field. How'd you do it today?
Honestly, I really don't know. This is a total bogey track for me. When I saw it on the schedule months ago, I was really dreading it. The disdain for this track goes all the way back to the days of Forza with the Xbox controller, and it kind of carried into iRacing. But I feel like I kind of shook the monkey off my back. This one and the winless streak of Autobahn. I think the last time I talked to you guys was when we were racing Corvettes and Cadillacs in Autobahn. Last time I won an Autobahn race.
Yeah, this is your first win of the season. How good does it feel to be on the top step of the podium tonight?
Oh, it feels great. It's been a long time. A lot of mistakes have been happening for me. A lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, personally, and everything. So to finally get a win, especially on a track like this, where I was really just hoping for a top 5 at best, to come out swinging and to come out on top, it feels really, really good. I'm finally there. It feels great.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the Audi is known for having a really flighty back end, and Suzuka is known for being a place where you can get loose very easily, especially depending on the setup you use. How did you keep the car under you today?
Well, I kind of use the looseness of it to my advantage. I like a car that's a little bit loose because it kind of helps with rotation, and it really came into play at a track like this, especially later in the stint, especially after the second or during the second stint. I was just really able to still push the car and still maintain the lead while keeping it underneath me.
Awesome. Well, since it's been a while, Paul, is there anyone you'd like to thank tonight?
I want to thank my amazing wife. She's watching the race for me and cheering me on. So she's my biggest cheerleader. So I got to thank her. She's the best.
Awesome. Well, thanks for talking to us, Paul. And once again, congratulations on the win tonight.
Thank you. I look forward to talking to you guys hopefully again sometime soon.
That was Paul Sylvanik, our GTD winner. And it looks like we have Carter Kundinger in.
I got
with
Carter
Suits On.
Kundinger. I do. Carter, congratulations. Second place finish, and you did a lot of it on the track. You had a nice battle there with a Leaf for quite a while.
Yeah, no, it was a fun race. I'm gonna be quite honest. Going into this race, I was not confident at all. Hopped in the practice session, and it was scorching hot. I mean, it was awful. So it was just slidey. I was kind of towards the bottom, and then for qualifying, it kind of got back to normal, and the race was finally normal around 70-ish degrees Fahrenheit. And my goal for the race, because I actually threw on a medium downforce setup for the race. My goal was to just obviously catch everyone ahead of me in the S's and in the corners, and then just hold on to their draft through the straights. And yeah, I mean, I was able to do that, go all the way from 7th to 2nd with a few fatalities along the way. So
yeah, no, you did a lot of it on the track, and you vultured a few spots. Billy Smith had some issues, and a few guys that were ahead of you. Another driver that had some trouble was I think who would it be? McGarvey had some issues, who was qualified ahead of you. How's the track feel when the sun starts to go down here in Japan?
I'm going to be quite honest with some of the textures that I have and just some of the things that are, I guess, like blocking the sun from the, it kind of throws you off a little bit just because you're used to like an orange track when you're going through some of the corners, and then to all of a sudden go black. It's kind of tricky, but I mean, it's iRacing. I love it. It's great. It's a cool feature, and I can't wait for it to be updated and be even better.
We're going to get ourselves a career stats page one of these days here for Autobahn. My guess is you do not have a win yet, correct? Career win?
No, I do not. That's actually only my second place in the series. So still looking for the win, but thankfully we're going up. So that, I mean, that's all that matters. Still got plenty of races left in the season.
Tied your career best. There you go. Congratulations. Nice job on second place finish.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Joe.
One last interview for tonight, and that is unfortunately Cy Andra with a 10th place finish at the end of the day. Cy, we were talking to Jason, and he said that had you made a move, had you gotten aggressive, he would have let you go on by, considering he was fighting for the championship and you were not. Knowing that, do you regret not getting more aggressive, or was that everything you had?
Absolutely. There were several points I think I could have forced the issue a little bit, but I just didn't have the confidence of making the car stick on the inside if he tried to fight me. But that, well, hindsight's 2020. I should have sent it. You always should send it.
Exactly. And going to later in the race when you had your incident that unfortunately sent you into the wall, were you aware that that was Paul Slavonik in front of you? And were you deliberately trying to make sure that you don't hit Paul Slavonik as he's leading the race?
Well, I did hear crew chief say this is the race leader for their class. I didn't know if it was Paul specifically, but I I was trying to give him a good berth because I didn't want to be that guy who takes out other classes in general. But I gave a little bit too much room, got up on the curb, and when these cars bounce, they bounce hard.
Well, we have 4 rounds to go, and the next one is heading to Imola. We've seen you race very hard in previous seasons there before. What are your thoughts going in? Do you think you could snag win number 2?
Oh, absolutely. I think Imola is one of those tracks where if I get in a good groove, I think I'm unbeatable. But I think that we'll see about that. I think. Well, I can't say anything with Jason because Jason seems to pull speed out of his butt from nowhere. But I do think I'll put up a better fight than I did today.
All right. Yeah, that was some definite ammunition for you that in that interview, I'm sure, with Jason. But congratulations on your win at the last round, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you some more in the remaining 4.
Thanks, Joe.
Cy Andra, who finished 10th today here in Suzuka. That's going to close us out, though. And so we want to thank a few people before we go. A big thank you to the Autobahn series and its organizers for bringing us back for another season of coverage, of course. And also a big thank you goes to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts that are listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Bill, Adam, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. We're also on social media. Our Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook, Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget, head on over to our YouTube page and make sure and hit that big red subscribe button if you haven't yet, so that you don't miss a moment here on the GSRC. The next race is going to be at Imola, as we mentioned, heading back to Italy. That'll be Monday, August 26th at 9:15 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.